Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to Hug Nation's Love Morning. I am John Halcyon, and this is a practice of gratitude and connection. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of it. What are you grateful for? Would love to hear. It's always so illuminating and expansive to hear what other people are grateful for. Had a wonderful, we had some friends over for dinner and over this weekend, and it was fun to have them ask questions about the gratitude practice and how it affects my mind. We were talking a bit about how we tend to just so focus on the examples in our life, like professional examples where it didn't quite work out. You say, yeah, for the 99 people that are super stoked with your work, and the one person who's like, yeah, I didn't quite jive with what you were doing. That's when you obsess about. And we're just talking about how that's how the mental framework, that's how the biology has been evolved, so that you survive by focusing on what's not right. And so while that is a beautiful recipe for survival, it is a horrible plan for happiness. And so you really gotta spend energy and discipline and have practices so that you don't ignore, take for granted, just bypass all the things that are good and going well. And it's not an all or nothing. It doesn't mean that you only focus on all that's going well. It just means that you recognize that your mind does not evenly distribute its attention. So you got to counteract that by paying attention to the good stuff. And with that, good morning and welcome. Hope that you are starting this week beautifully. This is Monday the 21st. And if you add too much chocolate on Easter, you might have a hearty thirst. And if you share the gratitude that is all up your ass, you might be grateful for the eggs you found hidden in the bushes and grass. Well, happy gratitude and happy day to you and happy good attitude. Let's all say hooray. Woo woo. Yeah. Sometimes, if you were here, say hello. We'd love to hear what you are grateful for. I am grateful for some wonderful family time yesterday. Had a gathering at my parents' house yesterday, and I had two of my cousins were there with their families, and Lisa and my brother's family, or all but Jen and Caleb weren't there, but Carter and Jim and cousins and my parents and Lisa and my cousin's kids. And so that was fun to have an egg hunts and beer bottle hunts, the traditional beer bottle hunts. And something happened that's never happened in the beer bottle hunt before, which is because the beer bottle, you use a 6-pack holder as your basket with fake grass in it. And my dad's 6-pack holder kind of broke through the bottom, and a glass bottle fell and shattered on the pavement. So there was glass everywhere and beer everywhere. It was tragic. Never happened before in 20 years of beer bottle hunts. Good morning, Jennifer. Jennifer says, I'm getting some therapy and feeling a little better each day. Well, that's something to be grateful for. Beautiful. And good to see you. Happy Monday. Juan says, I'm grateful for having small business overlooking Grateful for having small business overlooking for eggs, hot tubbing, swimming, eating, and having a great time. If I'm reading that right, it all sounds beautiful. I'm grateful that I got to spend a little bit of time yesterday morning. If you were here yesterday, you got to see me playing with Sophia, who is 3 years old and so gosh darn adorable. So thanks for your patience yesterday. There was a little confusion about my responsibilities for if I was going to do the broadcast and then kind of be in charge of hanging out with Sophia, but I offered to invite Sophia to the broadcast because we were already having fun making art. So you may have noticed that I was a little distracted yesterday. It was a little hard to do a broadcast as normal, but I thought that a little dose of 3-year-old energy would be worth it. So I'm so grateful I got to spend time with Sophia yesterday, and we made art. And what else did we do? Oh, I tried to do a little green screen video with her. Oh, bunnies. Oh, bunnies looking for eggs. That makes a lot more sense, Juan. Although I was ready to invest in your egg business. I did one thing I did with Sophia, because it's like I had like an hour to try to keep the attention of a 3-year-old, and boy, she's just so full of energy and ideas, and she's got so much conviction with, I want to do this, I'm going to pour water in this, I'm going to do this. I'm like, oh, okay, how about this? Nope, this is what I'm doing. I'm like, okay. So it was fun. But I tried to entertain her. Like, I put up my green screen, and I thought it would totally dazzle her to play in front of the green screen. And then, I asked her, like, what should we what's your imagination think we should? And she said, dinosaurs. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to take some video of us and pop dinosaurs behind it. And she's just going to have her mind blown. And she could care less. So we're like playing hide and seek, and I'm like on my laptop trying to video edit it while I'm hiding in the closet. And then I go, ta-da! And she just didn't even look at it for a second, which was kind of cool to realize how uninterested she is in screens, which her mom was like, that's by design. And then I kind of felt a little bad that I was encouraging her to, and role modeling being on the computer while I should be playing. But anyway, it all worked out. And I'm grateful that I had the time to get the inspiration of a child. And I'm grateful that it's a optional, periodic experience. I can't imagine what it would be like to be responsible all day, every day for a little one. That just seems so overwhelming. I am grateful that I have launched I just moved my microphone so that I could see the shirt. I'm wearing my Heart Centered Men's logo today. So we've got something going on in March for that. Not March, June 8th, I think. So I haven't really started promoting that, but just having it on the calendar and ready to go is exciting for me. Grateful I got to see my parents yesterday. And grateful for a good night's sleep. Grateful for what looks to be a beautiful day in San Diego. I'm grateful that I get to record a Stay Sparked episode today with Betsy. And speaking of that, I am grateful that I got to record a new episode of Heart on the 80s this weekend with my brother and Shonda. We did Airplane. Surely you didn't wait this long to do the movie Airplane. We did wait this long. And stop calling me Shirley. Jennifer says, I'm grateful for you and your support towards speaking up about therapy is not a bad thing. Absolutely. I think therapy is a badge of honor. Like if you're in therapy, you're saying, I want to be as healthy as possible. I want my relationships to be as good as possible. I want to be as minimally hampered by my traumas and my struggles as possible. Because if you have a worldview or if you believe that you are immune or free from emotional baggage or trauma, or you feel like, oh, I'm perfect in my communication. I have no blind spots. Like that is so, what's the right word? Not ignorant. It's just naive. So I think that you should be proud to say I'm getting lessons on how to be a better person. I've got a professional that is helping me to honor myself and my relationships, because I believe that I have one life and I want to live it as beautifully and as possible. I want to minimize the damage I put on others, and I want to maximize the joy and benefit I am in others' lives. Why not get professional help to do that? It's a crazy thing that I mean, I so appreciate what you're saying, Jennifer, because the reality is, 20 years ago, if you said that you were in therapy or you said your kid was in therapy, the assumption was like, what's wrong? Where now, I think if you say you're in therapy, it's like, good on you. Way to value your life. My therapist's name is Misty. I go about maybe twice a month, and different times, different frequency. Like 2 years ago when I was first changing my intoxication habits, I was going like twice a week. But it's important to get help. And I'm continually learning stuff. And sometimes, I'll have like a whole therapy session and sometimes I feel like, I'm not sure. Like it's nice to talk, but I'm not sure if I'm having any insights. And then wham, I'll get like, oh my gosh, that I had never thought about it like that. Or like one of the things that I most recently was talking about. How do I break it down into something that could explain it? Well, as the world feels like it has lots that needs fixing, I found myself feeling overwhelmed and feeling like I'm not doing enough. And my therapist was kind of pointing out this kind of pattern or trend that people go through. When you're a kid, it's easy to fall into like a David and Goliath. Like, I'm the hero. I'm Luke Skywalker. I need to save the universe. And which there's nothing wrong with that, but it also is a recipe for suffering. If you believe that you are responsible for saving the world. But on the other side of the spectrum, you also don't want to fall into a feeling of like, I'm helpless. I can't do anything. Because the healthy path is the middle way. Like, I'm not the savior of the universe. I am not the victim of the universe. I have agency. I have impact over the world that I have access to. So I am connected to you. So I'm going to walk a walk. I'm going to speak the words. I am going to interact with my world in a way that I believe is elevating it, without an attachment that I need to elevate everyone. or save everyone. But if someone in my world is struggling, then I want to give them time and attention and energy. And whenever I can, I want to move the dial in the direction of healing. And so finding that place which isn't a failed hero and which is not a helpless victim. It's like, oh. And so this is just my example of my most recent therapeutic insight that really snapped me out of a feeling of overwhelm. I kind of really fell into, not that I'm the hero, but I guess I should be the hero. That I should be dedicating more of my life to saving the world. And it's the disconnect of what feels like my realistic potential and the should, that difference was cause of a lot of suffering. Jennifer says, we get 20 free therapy sessions a year for Walmart employees. That's awesome. Great. Good morning, Gerbot. Good morning. Anybody do Easter celebration stuff? I really enjoyed spending time with my mom. I rewatched, I think I played it here, my Grandpa Caleb talking about Easter. Grandpa Caleb, right there. I've actually had, thank you, Jennifer. So I had this thought the other night. Well, it wasn't really, so I watched this interview with someone and they were talking about kind of historically, going back thousands of years, that there are these trends and patterns where governments or regimes tend to get oppressive, and like the religious structures start to get corrupted and used for oppression. And what is this pattern has happened, like 3 times, is the Christian, what's the word? Purists or something. The church becomes corrupt. People are paying for their absolution, and then there's a group of people that says, "Wait a minute, this is not what Jesus would do." There's a Protestant Reformation. Who is it that nailed the things on the? I'm trying to blank. Anyway, there's been these historic patterns where basically a group of Christians question what's happening in the trends of Christianity and break out and say, we're off track. And it's a significant shift, and saving energy. And it made me think, like, whoa. And this guy was positioning it like, I think that we are ripe for a genuine Christian revivalist movement, a genuine, Jesus would not do any of these things. So this new movement of Christianity will be a what would Jesus do movement, and saying that what the church is doing in all these ways is counter to, fundamentally in opposition to what the teachings of Jesus are. And I was like, interesting. And I actually started thinking, as someone who has studied under Reverend Sheichels, Grandpa Caleb, and, I have videos of me talking to him about Christianity and the teachings of Jesus and how you can pull from the Bible things like the Sermon on the Mount. You don't need to get caught up in Christian doctrine. You can go straight to the teachings of Jesus, and how, I wonder if there is a place for me in this near future of not being the savior, but in terms of like, what is my impact? Like, would there be a benefit to me refocusing and studying some of the gospel? You know, not Bible as words of God to be taken and manipulated, but like, well, Jesus seems like he had some pretty significant lessons about turning the other cheek and about the meek shall inherit the earth. And, like, what if we, like, put the words of Jesus above Christianity? And is there a way, could there be a way for me personally, John Halcyon, to re-identify as one who studies and teaches teachings of Jesus? So, just something I'm chewing on in my noggin. You know, I'm not talking about a born again situation. I'm not talking about a a change in faith. I am talking about a reanalysis of where my fundamental beliefs about truth in the universe that overlaps with teachings from countless mystics, where those overlap with Jesus, and spend a little time not being repelled by Christianity, but by how the study of the core of Christianity could be beneficial to a population of people that is lost right now. Good morning, Natasha, saying hello and from sunny. Good morning from sunny and ready for planting Albuquerque. I'm grateful for my partner's badass insurance that covers all my therapy we need. Wow, what a blessing. I love that. Hooray for therapy. Hooray for a culture of celebrating therapy. And I guess that too could be a dangerous thing. Like, we don't want to surrender our agency to have professionals tell us what's wrong with us and tell us what we need to be different. But we do want to have coaches. You know, just like if you want to be the best baseball player, you find someone who knows a lot about swinging. Doesn't mean they're a better athlete than you, but they have studied how to swing and how to hold the glove, and so that they can be like, you know what, you're not following through like you think you are. Here, as I'm watching you, let me suggest you try this. You go, okay. But it takes it's a collaboration, you know, as all good teaching is, I believe. Gerbot says, I ate some Reese's eggs. You know, I didn't have any Reese's yesterday, but I had so much fucking sugar yesterday. Like, I had so much sugar that my dad was like, I kind of made a joke, like, hey, don't refill the Jelly Belly dishes around me because I've emptied them. And my dad, like, without joking, was like, I noticed, like, you never stopped eating. I'm like, I know. I ate so, like, I was kind of joking, but kind of not. I was like, I have a headache because I've been eating so much sugar today. Word up. Brian says, good morning, John and all of Pink Nation. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to be alive, and for all the even momentary yet momentous opportunities to learn from others and grow with them. Grateful for time. That's a solid list. What was I just rewatched the show. Oh no, what is it? Scarlett Johansson, she plays Lucy. Have you seen that movie? It's a great one. I rewatched it. And some of as her mind learns to go from using 10% of her brain to all of it, one of the massive epiphany awareness's conclusions is that time is the fundamental measurement. I can't even articulate it, or maybe I didn't understand, of everything. But like matter and reality is all, it all, everything exists and always has exists. And so it's the measurement and the of time that creates reality. Did I just totally go off track? Oh, grateful for time. That's what made me think of it. Yes. Thanks, Brian. Good morning, Julie. Natasha says, you could do that. You have the training. You could do the research and report your findings. I do think it's time for a love revolution. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about my path that is that feels parallel to like a church model. Like sometimes I thought about like Hug Nation. It's not really a nonprofit. Like I'm not doing fundraising and to pay salaries and do. But there is a little bit of a church format. But I've been super hesitant to even play with that wording because of the baggage that goes with church. But after watching this video, I was just realizing that, of course, there is risks and there is a baggage that comes with it, but there's also a potentially, this massive importance that could happen. So just something I'm playing with, and also playing with in a very cautious way. I am not the radical activist that I once was. I am not willing to risk my freedom in a way that I once was. Brian says, it sounds like you have time for reflection and you're doing what you can with it, approaching connection through compassion. Religion does serve a powerful community purpose, so much so. And that's one of the things that like, there's religion and there's spirituality, depending on how you define those things. But, religion tends to be the structure and organization and dogma, and spirituality tends to be the personal connection with divinity or non-binary concepts, and I think that the teachings of Jesus touch more closely to spirituality, whereas church doctrine tends to fall into religion. And one of the things that also I think that maybe makes me easier to be more accepting of Jesus than I used to be is I spent a lot of time studying the A Course in Miracles, which is a text that was supposed to be channeled by Jesus, there's a lot of that book is a mystical reinterpretation of biblical wording and concepts and ideas. So like, the way to the Father is through me is saying, well, it's not saying to go to heaven, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior. That's not what that means. What it means is to find connection to the oneness, to be in touch with the divinity that is part of all things. Is the way to do that is through living a life like I did, like Jesus. Like this is a manual for how to be, which is love first, which is compassion, which is humility. Like these, like turn the other cheek is a revolutionary idea. Like we just turn the other cheek, layer that on top of, like, prioritize that over anything else done in the name of Christianity, and you have an entirely different world. And I should say, I'm just kind of riffing right now. So if I'm saying things that are repellent to you, or you feel like I've lost my way, I'm open to this conversation. I am not drawing a line in the sand. I am not getting rebaptized. I'm just trying to be. I'm trying to follow a path of love, and I'm trying to notice if I'm repelled by things, is it purposeful? Is there a benefit to revisiting things? When I was growing up, like in college years, I was so anti-church. I was aggressively mean to Christians and street preachers and things, and then started to try to figure out, like, what's the motivation, like, oh, does this person really think that I'm going to burn in hell eternally? Like, is this person, like, do they really feel like they're saving me? That's way different than someone who's trying to, like, get me to donate money to their church, to try to, buy them a new mega yacht. I'm not sure if I heard the numbers right, but I saw, like, the Joel Osteen, like, his salary and the number of cars he has. It's like, what the fuck? How do you reconcile that as your religious leader? Okay. Lorian, good morning. Lorian says, I totally hear you. I had the craziest dreams last night about exactly this. Whoa. Interesting. Juan says, yep, I agree. We need a place for a prayer, no matter what religion or following you have. Gerbot says, they are dangerous, which at first I thought you were talking about the church, which is true. But then I think you're talking about Reese's eggs, which is even more true. Have I mentioned to you guys that I've realized that my eczema, my flakiness, I'm almost positive now is related to dairy. And so much so that if I have too much milk chocolate, I get a flare up. So, of course, now I'm having dark chocolate like crazy. Dude, Trader Joe's, they now, for like $7, they have this pound block of dark chocolate, which I couldn't help but buying. It was such a good deal. And so now I have like one little square of this block, and it feels like, oh, I'm just having like one piece of chocolate. And it's like the size of a normal chocolate bar, just one little. Okay, I'm getting off track. Good morning, Hope. Brian says, measurement of time certainly creates meaning. I realize as I'm reading that I'm now, I'm probably way behind on your comments, and I apologize if I'm trying to if I've not yet responded. I'll try to catch up. Natasha says, I am grateful for the convo I've been having with my partner about his mom's feelings about how Catholicism changed, the Vatican and Pope Francis. She was a choir singer and was very much the old way. She left this mortal plane a year ago, and it has been nice to reminisce on the topic of God today from her perspective. So did the Pope die yesterday? I was just reading some headlines right before this. And honestly, like, I got like a pang of fear went through my body. Not that I'm a huge follower of Catholic news, but my understanding is that our most recent Pope was very progressive. And the little clips that I was exposed to was like, oh, this is not the papal perspective that I was raised with, of fearing and in fact, this was a pope that was critical of politicians who were speaking about closed borders and things. So I think there's a lot of appreciation and gratitude. I feel a lot of appreciation, feeling like to be within a conservative, oppressive system, and even to make little bits of change, I think is significant and important. So, thank you, Pope Francis. We'll see where we head. Which reminded me, before Pope Francis, I don't know how long he's been in office, but I remember when they're choosing the next pope. You know how this works? I don't know. They lock all the whatever they call them, the high up church people, and then the smoke comes out one color until they pick the right somebody. They can't leave, and then when they finally pick the new one, that the smoke color changes. I always thought that was so interesting. But before Pope Francis, I did a silly online campaign. I got to resurrect the Facebook group. It was Halcyon for Pope. I think it might be time for. I'm not sure if it's still time to get in the running. All right. Brian says, religion often offers us a framework of protectedness and belonging. Religious folks tend to want us all within that belonging, an umbrella of acceptance, and it can get divisive. That's really well said. Yeah, I think, that's the thing about like faith and spirituality and religion, that so many people that I know and myself really rejected religion, but in doing so, we also lost community. We lost congregation. One of the reasons, this gathering here, Hug Nation, is a desire and return to a feeling of connection. Burning Man is a congregation of people coming together with a shared worldview. Even if that worldview is, you can believe whatever you want, there's still a sense of belonging. Grandpa Caleb was the first one who, as I talked about Burning Man, he referred to it as my congregation. Hope says, trying to find my consistent gratitude for my housing. Sometimes it feels like a war, but I know at the end of the day, I am blessed in my home. I've been feeling very grateful for my home lately. We had some friends over that have never been here, and they came over for dinner on Saturday, and it was so nice to see their reaction to our home and to feel so wonderful hosting. I've never felt as much. I've never enjoyed a place I lived as much as I do right now. It could be because I'm playing house with my best friend and my soulmate. I love all the candy confessions. Natasha ate like half a bag of Whoppers Robin's eggs yesterday. Juan says, question, is there a place for praying at the burn? Is that what you mean by the That's a great question. I think that there definitely are religious groups there. There's a camp I know called Religious as Fuck that is partially run by the bishop. There's I can't remember his name. Brian, I think is his name. He did a sermon in his robes about Burning Man probably 8 years ago, but it was fantastic, and it was really about how Christ-like so much of the behavior he saw at Burning Man was. And he helps run a camp called Religious as Fuck that is, I think, is incorporating a lot of this we're talking about today. And I think the temple is a place that is a kind of DIY prayer. And I think that, I think one of the things that I appreciate about Burning Man is that it invites you to radically self-express. And I would include prayer in that. That while it's not untrue that there are probably burners that are pretty judgmental towards traditional religion. Like there's churches that are there. I remember 1 year backcountry, which was next door to the Hare Krishnas. And I think that part of radical inclusion and radical self-expression, these things work together to try to create an environment where your personal connection to spirit, to creativity, to prayer is all welcome. And when we can find a way to feel that personal connection and express it in a way that does not impose on others, that is this kind of sweet spot that I think the 10 Principles and Burning Man culture really tries to cultivate and encourage in people, which is, I think, so connected to the concept of spirituality versus religion. Like, don't dress up in a certain way because that's what you're supposed to do in Burning Man culture. What do you want to do? What does your spirit tell you? How do you want to pray? How do you want to be present with the experience of being alive? These are spiritual questions as well as Burning Man questions. Jennifer says, I have deep fears about my future and my housing situation, thus my desire for therapy. Learning to be grateful for what I have today and be hopeful for the future. I think this is going to be a bigger and bigger question for the modern human being. Ideas and structures and forecasting of a future is becoming obliterated. It is very difficult to imagine what the future holds. And I think that we have every right to have some concern, maybe even fear. But I also think it's important to continually remind ourselves that there is no benefit, there's no productivity in living in a state of suffering around a future that does not exist yet. Do I think that we are in for some very challenging times when it comes to AI and robotic impacted future? One that has wealth distribution so fucked up, one that has a concern for our environment so out of whack? Absolutely. I sometimes whip myself into a panic. And there's nothing irrational about that line of thinking. However, there's also nothing productive about living in that state. So it's trying to find that place of balance of, it goes back to the, gratitude, and focusing on good and bad. Like you don't want to, or being the hero versus being helpless. Like, what's the sweet spot? Like, yeah, I don't want to pretend that there's no reason to be concerned. And I don't want to live in a place where I'm so present to my fear that it taints all the joy. It's like, how can I find ways to really experience joy in the moments that I can, and not be blind to what's happening around me? That is the dilemma. That is the focus of the new Church of Jesus. Just kidding. Hope says the temple visits have always been very spiritual for me. Me too. Like, and in fact, there's something about, we could maybe spend some more time in this another time, but like the way that the temple kind of, it doesn't tell you the way you're supposed to worship, but it welcomes however you're going to worship. I think that there's something really special about the creating a fertile place for genuine spiritual experience, and then saying whatever that looks like to you, do it. As long as it's not too, doesn't impose too much on others, you know. Brent, good morning. Brent says, I'm forever grateful for my biblical knowledge and the peace I made with my evangelical upbringing years ago. What an amazing perspective. Well said. Maybe I'll revisit some of the videos. I have some video of me talking to my grandpa about the Bible and about Jesus. And, it's really helpful for me to get to spend time with a man who is so at peace, so connected to compassion and love and kindness. And really that connection came through decades and decades of really, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Jennifer says, I'm learning not to panic. There's Shakespeare has this line in Julius Caesar where he says, a coward dies 1,000 deaths and a hero dies just once. And panic is dying is before you need to. It is, you are bringing a potential future into the present moment and experiencing the suffering of it before you're even required to suffer. No, it's maybe a little delicate. Like they're still being prepared and making arrangements to minimize future suffering. But that's different than panicking. That's different than being, experiencing the pain, experiencing the despair of a future that is yet to be. And Natasha says, I think we tried the fear-based things before and it didn't work. Maybe this time leading with love will be the way. Yeah. And I think that, we have enough years of humanness and culture and religions and regimes to know that there's going to be cycles. And speaking of, actually I know what I'm speaking of, but do any of you listen to the podcast The Emerald? I'm new to it, but the last 2 episodes, I'm finishing the one about the trickster right now, and the one before that about singing to the beloved. It is so good. It is such it is like a very well-read, psychedelic influenced insight into the world, and that is, I find it to be very illuminating. I think that maybe I'm gonna. There's a few pieces of media lately that I've thought about. Would it be fun or worth it or valuable to have some discussion nights assigned? Say, hey, we're gonna talk about the show. Was it The Adolescent? Is that the show I just watched? Adolescence is the show that I watched. I would like to have a Zoom meeting and talk about that show. And I'd like to have a Zoom meeting and talk about some of these episodes of The Emerald. It's already 9:50. Clearly I needed some time in community, so thank you for sharing this morning with me. Brent says the temple's the most amazing place on earth. I would not argue with that. In fact, like I'm well versed in trying to explain Burning Man to people, and usually in my as I start to explain what Burning Man is, they go, "Oh, is that concert? Is that like Coachella?" And it's like I talk about the city and how it's everything, and then I talk about the temple, because the temple by itself would be enough. Like just the temple would be enough to shatter most people's perceptions of what Burning Man is, and to make people go, "Whoa, this is something way more than I thought it was." Chris, good morning. Chris says, grateful for opportunities that lie ahead. Though it might seem easier to change the past, the future is there for anyone to change. I like that. Which reminds me of, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was saying that, maybe been a meme, and it was like, when you watch science fiction movies, there's all this talk about, if you time travel in the past, don't touch anything, because even the smallest actions could totally change the direction of the future. But we don't talk about how that's happening all the time. Our present moment has the potential to change the future in dramatic ways. The butterfly effect is happening all the time. The little acts that we do to impact the world are changing the future. Well said. Good morning, Amy. Amy said, I'd like to join those Zoom meetings if possible. Sweet. All right. Well, I'll try to give it some more thought. Gerbot says it like a book club for podcasts. Right. Podcasts or like Netflix shows, maybe books too. Like it might be, yeah. Brian says, so thankful to share this time with you. I'm still trying to coordinate myself to finally make Lakes of Fire either this or next year. Even if it's years ahead of me, it's a goal. Speaking of which, I believe Amy just got tickets to Lakes. Natasha says, oh my God, I'm grateful I found out my father-in-law's cancer treatment seems to have gotten rid of his fourth cancer. Woo-woo! Amazing. Well, it is, as we approach on 10 o'clock, I want to encourage everyone to listen to the new episode of Hard on the 80s, where we talk about the movie Airplane. It was super fun. And the most recent episode of Stay Sparked. I can't remember what we talked about, but I remember enjoying it, and I haven't really promoted it. And we're going to record a new episode today. I'm not sure what that's going to be about either. Maybe it'll be about something we've talked about today. I don't know. I'm wearing my Heart-Centered Men shirt. I want to let people know that I'm going to do a Men's Day in June, a Sunday, a full day Sunday. It'll be the first Saturday, homeless outreach, and then first Sunday in June will be the men's gathering. So if that has interest to you, please let me know. Thank you for this time. I feel very nourished and appreciative of this safe space. Although I've been kind of trained that the word safe space, this brave space, this place where we're encouraged to be brave and be celebrated for our truth. So I will keep you posted about a potential discussion, a book club, whatever that might look like. I will plan to talk to you soon then, Natasha. And I hope everyone has a beautiful start to this week. Happy Monday, happy day after Easter, happy springtime. If anybody wants to put in a last little jolt of gratitude, something that you're feeling grateful for, thank you for that big gratitude boost from you, Natasha. I am so grateful for my partnership with Lisa. It's this incredibly supportive experience where, like we kind of are training each other to be honest and truthful and support. Like, so yesterday I wasn't feeling my best. And so I just said so. Like, I'm feeling a little irritable. I just I had to drive back to my parents to get something, and each of them said something that was loving, but it had a little parenting jab in it, and I was kind of feeling, nah. And so I just shared that, and so Lisa was immediately trying to find ways that she could be supportive and make things easier for me, and at the end of the day, when I was sharing my gratitude for her and for that, like how much I feel supported, like dramatically. The minute I say that I'm having some struggle, I feel like this extra effort to facilitate my life or my struggles. And she pointed out, because she goes, I so appreciate that communication, because by you giving me insight into your feelings and the source, I don't have to worry or wonder, like, did something I did, so it so quickly gets us into partner mode of supporting one another, instead of it's connecting instead of separating. But it takes this building up of trust, and I'm just super grateful for that continued process of building trust. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Gerbot. Thanks, Amy and Natasha and Brian and Chris and Jennifer. Wherever you are, if you're still with us, give yourself a hug. Appreciating this body, appreciating this moment, appreciating the ability to think and have questioning thoughts, and to support one another, and to be inspired by one another, to be reminded and to snap out of thoughts that might not serve us, and to have the courage to spend time with thoughts that might be difficult, and to know that there are loving, supportive teammates around this planet that we might not ever meet physically, but they are part of our community, part of our congregation, part of our container of support. So let's feel connected to one another as we take a deep breath in and squeeze one another. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and everybody here, thank you for being here for this love morning. I love you. Happy April.